Welcome into a special bonus episode of Kickin' It with Grant Mahoney and Jeff Woody. I am Jeff Woody. This is also Grant Mahoney. Aiden Wyatt is behind the board. We have, like I said, special edition, and also Kickin' It is sponsored by Kelderman Manufacturing. If you want to learn more about Kelderman Manufacturing, go to kelderman.com or keldermanmanufacturing.com, and it is A-plus stuff. But anyway, this is probably the best guest that we've ever gotten, so we're not going to spend too much time talking about if you're listening to this during the football season and kind of listening to this more topically as opposed to going back and listening to it. We'll talk about BYU. We'll talk about upcoming Texas here in the later in the week. We're going to get to the interview because this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure was. And I want to thank Chris Fallica for coming on with us here. Shot him a tweet. Hey, you want to join us this week? Thinking, he's probably going to ghost me. Dude responded quick, then hit me with a follow, DM, got his number, got him on. Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. Yeah,
for those that don't know, and we do a little bit of an intro, but Chris Fallica, he is on Big Noon Kickoff. He is his nickname is the Bear. He's one that kind of like with picks, with betting, with knowing a little bit about everything. He's kind of like the guy that he is the SID for the broadcast. So he is so much fun. And for a while, he had an Iowa State helmet behind his desk when he would do like stand-ups in the show. So big Iowa State fan.
Yeah, he is, and he was really pushing. I remember. In 2020, he mentions it in the interview, he pushed for Iowa State to be a part of college football playoffs. And I remember when I think it was Herb Street and him talking on camera. And as soon as they, got rid of his, we're done with his section, they panned to whoever it was. And there were guys in the studio laughing at him. But he's like, I stand behind that. I stand
finished
behind
number 6.
That's right.
Beat the hell out of Oregon. So without any further ado, welcome. This is the Goldfinch Athletics interview on Kickin' It with Chris Fallica, the Bear from Bears Bets and Big Noon Kickoff.
All right, and now we welcome in a very special guest. You may have heard him on the Bear Bets podcast. If you haven't listened to that yet, be sure to do that. He's going to win you some money. Also, you may have seen him formerly as a part of ESPN's College Game Day. Now he's on Fox's Big Noon Kickoff. We welcome in Chris, the Bear Fallica. Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well. I wore maroon today for you. I couldn't go full Iowa State equipment gang gear that they hooked me up with when I was out there a couple of years ago. But I did go maroon. I got to maintain a little bit of neutrality here, but I tried to fit in with you guys. I'm doing well.
At least it's not orange. Like we're cool with that. At least it's not a burnt orange. At least this week.
So yeah, I got some of that on the way from the Texas staff as well. So I definitely would have thought that would have been a bad gesture. I don't want to be that rude guest. You being so kind and invited me on the show, so I didn't want to be that guy.
No, we appreciate that too. So kind of diving into that though, Chris, you are a self-proclaimed Iowa State fan, if you will, and a fan of Matt Campbell. Why is that? What about the Iowa State program is it in Matt Campbell specifically?
It actually predates even Matt's arrival in Ames. It actually goes back to like the late 90s in college basketball with Larry Eustachy and Tim Floyd and those teams that. Did I say a bad word or no?
No, that's good. Know. Like big Eustachy fans here. Yeah.
Okay, because I know they're like both sides with him, but I used to love just the way his teams played, how animated and driven he was on the sideline, and when they went to Fog Allen and won, I was like so happy, and they never got the respect that they were due, and all they did was go out and win. They got absolutely screwed in 2000 in the NCAA tournament. They were the second best team in the country behind Michigan State. So you're basically saying, okay, number 1 and number 2 are going to be in the same region. And oh, by the way, we're going to make Iowa State. You have to play in the state of Michigan against the Spartans. So they got absolutely jobbed that year by the selection committee putting them there. And I felt for a lot of Iowa State fans who I'd been in contact throughout that year and just kind of interacting with, but I love those teams. And then I think Matt's teams kind of had that persona. Iowa was going to the New Year's Six of the BCS and going to the Orange Bowl, and Iowa State was just kind of coming up and up and up. And then finally they beat them. And the 2020 season, the COVID year, was the year where I kind of got laughed at and mocked that you want to pick a team to win the Big 12, take a look at Iowa State, and here are the reasons why. And everybody had a good laugh until there they were in Arlington with the ball on the 20-yard line with an opportunity to win that game. So I think I came out looking pretty good on that one. But yeah, it's great. It was funny. I actually felt kind of bad early in the year because it was like, here I am bringing up all these notes about how all these close toss-up games that are not going Iowa State's way. And then finally, finally, like the positive regression reared its ugly head after however many games it should have been, and they won some close games. And here they are. I don't know how many people would have thought after the start of the season that they had, losing to Ohio and then losing to Iowa. Like here they are with an opportunity to go to the Big 12 championship game.
So I've kind of got a bone to pick at you.
About that.
I kind of got a bone to pick at you, Chris. Your week 3 Bear bets, you picked against the Clones, and it breaks my heart because you were right.
It hurt.
Yeah, what the hell, man? What the
It
hell?
hurt. It's like it's funny because I feel bad when I pick against one of my like adopted pet teams, whether it's Iowa State or Eastern Michigan, where I've had some interactions with them as well than I do picking against my alma mater, Miami, because like at least with Miami, I can have like the alumni hate, and like that's the reason why I'm like reverse psychology picking against them. But I genuinely felt, I remember that day, I'm like, oh no, Ohio is the right side. It really is. Like, why are they playing this game? And Matt should know better going on the road to a MAC school who's like got this game circled on their calendar. And yeah, it kind of played out, unfortunately, for you guys how I kind of thought it might.
Yeah, it sure did.
I'm curious. So now, like bringing up the Ohio game, because power ratings. That's what gambling is based off of. It's not this. There's some Kabbalah cigar smoking Las Vegas executives going, I think these Cyclones are pieces of shit. It's not that.
I make it 3. I make it 2.5.
So like, but with power ratings, it takes into the totality of the season. With a team like Iowa State, who has so quickly after the Ohio game, they had like a long, hard look in the mirror and said, this sucks. And they flipped everything. And since then, getting a Big 12 play, it's a totally different team. But still, the power ratings seem to reflect like the BYU line. Was it 8.5? I think was that what?
Yeah, I think it got steamed up to that. I think it opened at like 6.5.
And BYU. I mean, they gave up 330 yards rushing to West Virginia. They're down a quarterback, but still, because of the early part of the season, power ratings say Iowa State only 6.5. How do you like reconcile? Like, how do odds makers reconcile the fact that a team might be totally different halfway through the season than what they started?
Yeah, I think they do, but sometimes they're slow to come around, and that was one of the things going into last week's game. Like I tried to like push this all season long, and it went against the note and the way the season has gone with the UCF Oklahoma State game, with how the old guard Big 12 teams had just been dominating the newcomers in the league, and then Oklahoma State just kind of a flat spot in Orlando coming off with the Bedlam win. But I don't think people really caught on to like how bad BYU was, and not only like the priors from last season with Iowa State, like Iowa State's kind of progressed this season like you would have expected a team who's starting a freshman quarterback and has a bunch of freshmen and sophomores at running back and wide receiver. Of course, they were going to start slow throughout the year and get better. And a lot of times, I don't think like the power ratings can particularly catch up to that right away. So it does surprise me that they've been a little slow in catching on to that. And even this week, I don't know if I'd want to lay 7.5, or 8 points on the road in that atmosphere at night with the Texas team, who, if you look at Texas in recent games, like they've gotten up on teams, and then whatever happens in the second half, they've let teams back in games.
Kansas State, TCU, all three, they've had big leads, and then it's gone from big lead to oh shit really fast. Yeah, we
were in Austin for the K-State game, and that game went from 27-7 or whatever it was, 20 to tie game in like a span of 4 game minutes, and it was like, what the hell is going on here? You get a turnover with a young quarterback, but I do think offensively they're a much different team with Quinn Ewers as a quarterback, because I think he has a better propensity to take care of the football, whereas Malik kind of forced some things at times, and he can get those wide receivers more involved. So they're good. They're going to be facing as healthy as a Texas team as there has been in a while. Like I was going back and forth with someone within the program last week, and he was like, we finally had like everybody practice for the first time since week 2. So they've overcome some injuries, and we'll see. This is their toughest test. I mean, they went out and they're going to go to the Big 12 championship game and maybe the playoff, and we'll see what happens with the college football playoff rankings. But they're going to get Iowa State's best shot, because this is typically the type of game, whether it's been in the past with Texas or Oklahoma or Iowa, like these are the games that Iowa State kind of comes out and plays with a little bit of an edge, wanting to prove that they do belong on this type of stage.
Yeah, and Texas, they're starting running back just towards ACL too, so I'm curious to see how this I mean, they've got the best freshman
I
running
mean,
back.
it's still Texas. They still have like
Right.
Yeah, how did I miss that?
Jonathan Brooks.
Ooh, how did I missed that one? See, they love C.J. Baxter, but losing Brooks is a big deal. See what happens when I'm spread too thin. I didn't do all my reading. Wow, I didn't. But that's
We're here to help. We're here to help.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's a massive loss for them.
Interesting dynamic because they obviously are going to be starting, assuming a true freshman running back, and then coming into the historic Jack Trice Stadium at night, senior night, last home game. Weird things happen.
And this is going to be,
I
mean, it's going to be a hornet's nest. And I don't know, you said you have, is the Texas, because I would imagine were you guys at Big Noon or Big Noon kickoff? Were you guys at Red River too?
No,
Okay,
we're
so
not there for Red River.
Is it Texas, Kansas State? Is that the only game that you've been to? Because I didn't know like the Texas and Oklahoma farewell tours. There have been some spicy environments that they have engaged.
Yeah,
and deservedly so, as there should be. I mean, these are two teams that are kind of leaving the conference, and Texas's sake, like they haven't won the league since 2009. So it's like they're the brand Texas, and they're kind of put on this pedestal, but they haven't won anything in 15 years. So it's like I get the infatuation, I get the alumni base, I get it's Texas, but it kind of like treating them like they're kind of college football royalty nowadays is a little odd when they really haven't won much lately. But this is maybe the year where it's funny. We talk about how Iowa State kind of had gone through a spell where they didn't win a bunch of games that they maybe should have, or these close games that didn't go their way. Kind of been a little bit different with Sark this year. Last 2 years, I think they were 4-10 in one possession games. Now, finally, they've, despite blowing some games in the second half, they've hung on and been on the right side of the Plinko chip to win these games. But yeah, I would expect it to be kind of wound up. I'm sure it was in Stillwater a couple of weeks ago with Bedlam. But good. That's what college football's about. It's about spicy atmospheres and fans having that football hate towards their opponent and other schools and other fan bases.
Well, Iowa State's won. I don't know if you noticed, won 3 of the last 4 matchups, and last year in Austin, Iowa State only lost by a touchdown.
And Xavier Hutchinson had a wide open post down the field, and just his elbow cracked the ground a little bit. But otherwise, that would have been
and Iowa State finished 4-8, so it's not quite a good team we're putting out there.
And several of those guys are no longer available for some reasons that have nothing to do with this podcast.
Probably been listening to Bear Bets, man.
Yeah, I was going to say my viewership has actually increased this year now.
I was going to say, sometime in the state of Iowa, we got a little bit too much going on. I was curious because, so like going into, we cover Iowa and Iowa State, and I do some stuff for Drake. So like 3 teams, and it's enough to try and keep kind of a handle on enough of a broadcast stuff. This is like a little inside baseball. How do you have, because anytime you show up on camera, you're well informed with pretty much anything they're going to throw at. Is that just like a mental Rolodex that you just keep for forever? Or like, how do you prep into a week to be as like knowledgeable about whether it's the line or whether it's, I mean, other than Jonathan Brooks' injury, which sorry for that.
You say, good question.
So how do you stay prepped? Like, what does that look like in order to know what's going on across the country relative to, as opposed to just us idiots just covering one school?
I have no life. I'm a loser. But I do a lot of reading. I'm online reading as many either fan sites or local papers or other websites. Just talking to friends throughout the industry, just kind of trying to keep up. And I guess the key is knowing a little about a lot to be able to kind of, I don't want to say fool you, but like be able to have a conversation and actually sound informed. Like maybe I can't go too deep down line by line and talk about the tight end recruit who might be coming in, but to just kind of have an idea of what's going on with the team, what's happened in recent games, storylines, kind of lay out where they might be headed to a bowl game, what they got coming up on the schedule. There are always like certain things that are kind of like default kind of things to look into, or just kind of know and like file this away. That way, if someone does ask you about whatever, you'll have that idea. But I think the fact that I do kind of focus and like in handicapping and looking at the odds, like I kind of have to, like for every one of these games, like I'll look at the number and I'll say, okay, does this seem right? Does it not seem right? And then I'll start doing a little research on okay, well, this is what's going on with this team. This is what's going on with that team. So even if I'm not playing a game, like I'm doing enough research on the board to kind of be like, to have an idea, maybe talk about some things that maybe not everybody knows, like talking about Charlotte and how they brought in a defensive coordinator who was tight with Jim Harbaugh and John Harbaugh and on the Ravens staff, and maybe look for Charlotte's defense to give Memphis some trouble, and maybe they're going to hang around in this game and pull an upset and then wind up losing in overtime. So sometimes you do look good, or you're talking about Old Dominion and Ricky Ronnie being we were at Penn State and they lost close games to JMU, blah, 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 da, 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 and they lose 38-10 or whatever. So, but it's just a way. It's just a good process that I kind of go through to try and know as much about teams as I possibly can without going completely overboard.
Well, I kind of want to ask you too, on your Bear Bets podcast, you've mentioned a couple times too about how the Pac-12, this is obviously the last year that they're going to be around, but they're having arguably maybe the best year the Pac-12 has had in a long time. I want to ask you about realignment. What are your thoughts on college football realignment? Do we have enough time?
I hate it. I hate it, and I'm sure you guys are not fans of it as well. But I just don't like. Again, you could see where it was going and where it was coming from and what was going to happen years ago. But you're basically turning it into like two super conferences now, and it's kind of like you got the SEC centric conference and the Big Ten centric conference, and everyone else is kind of like looking to survive. And I just hate it because you have these huge leagues, and I don't like leagues where you've got 16 teams in the league and you're playing half of your league in conference play. Like that's not. Let's just get rid of conferences entirely if you're going to form leagues like that. But I like old school rivalries. I think Texas and Texas A&M should play every year. I think Oklahoma and Nebraska should play every year. Like all the Oregon State should play every year. Like all these old school college football rivalries, I love, and that's the backbone of the sport. And with realignment now kind of taking away those games, I'm just not a fan of it. But I guess it was a way to kind of sell to the conferences as well. Playoffs going to expand. Excuse me. Playoffs going to expand. You're not going to worry about those second or third losses. Odds are you'll be in there at 11 or 12 anyway. So I get it. It's money. It's television. I hate talking about it sometimes because it's like it's your fault. Yeah, I was in on the conversations at ESPN and Fox with the conference commissioners looking to do the realignment. But TV is a big, unfortunate driving factor in the realignment, and also TV is a big part of the reasons for financing the sport. So I get it, but I hate it.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, just the way that when you look at realignment, it feels like there is a too small. Like if the Pac-12 explodes and a lot of these teams get absorbed, or Oregon State and Washington State are kind of out in the cold, which is terrible. And if that happens, it feels like to me, if that happens too many more times down the road, like we've talked about on here, like calling it the transitive property of giving a shit, where I am, we root for Iowa State, and Iowa State might at some point play, I don't know, pick a team, Arizona in a bowl game. Well, then I'm going to watch an Arizona game because it reflects back to caring about my team. Right. Well, if I want to watch high level football and not necessarily have a dog in the fight, I'm going to watch the NFL. So if we start cutting out Iowa State and all the schools that, if it's the top 30 teams and it's just Ohio State versus Penn State every weekend, I'm not really going to care as a person, because it's the transitive property of give a shit is it doesn't affect me. And so if it doesn't have it feels like in my head going forward, there's enough of a limit where viewership will drop off, and then so you're sort of cutting your nose off to spite your face, where we don't necessarily get a yield on that return. So I'm less pessimistic about the future, but I'm kind of with you there as far as like I don't like it. I would rather see USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington should play each other in the Pac-12 against the other state schools there.
What really needs to happen is just football needs to become its own entity. Like just keep your traditional conferences. That way, you've got your basketball rivalries, you've got your baseball rivalries, wrestling in the Midwest, obviously, which is huge. Hockey in some of the Big Ten schools, and all the non-rev sports. You don't got to worry about traveling cross country and all the expenses dealing with that. Like you need to basically say, okay, everything that's happened in the last 3, 4, 5 years or whatever in terms of realignment, that's gone for everything but football. Football is its own deal, and that's where it should go. Whether it does, I don't know. And you talk about the transitive property of not giving a shit. Like that also takes a little bit of an off the field, off athletic type stance too, because I remember earlier in the year, I don't know if it was Jake Dickert or if it was somebody at Washington State was talking about how this is going to affect student enrollment. They want to be at a school that's going to have a football team and see big games and have a top opportunity to play in big games. And if they don't have a football program that's going to be viewed as a Power 5 type deal, like that affects like how students view their school. So, I mean, it's a shame because you've got Oregon State, which is having its best season in who knows how long. And they got a big game this week against UW, which they're only I think they're only about a 1.5 point underdog, and they got a great chance.
Is that in Corvallis or is that in Seattle?
It's in Corvallis, and I think they've won. I think they've won like 17 or 18 games there. The only loss being the game to SC last year, where they had them obviously beat up on Utah there earlier in the year. That is man,
you talk about a hornet's nest. That will be another hornet's nest.
Have you been to Corvallis?
No, but it's one of the publisher, Chris Williams, has called a couple games for the men's and women's basketball teams during crossover season. And one of his favorite places to go is Oregon State and Corvallis because it's, land grant brothers and it sort of feels a little Amesy just in the Northwest.
I was just going to say it had the fan base and like the stadium. It does have a little like Oregon State to like Iowa State. It has that kind of feel. And yeah, I've been to Corvallis a couple times. I was there when they beat USC in that fog game on a Thursday night, and then we were there for one of the Civil War games. Even that's going to be a wound up place on Saturday for sure. I actually would be surprised if UW got out of there with the win. Well, maybe that'd be a little sneak preview to the Bear Bets pod.
Inside pitches. All right.
I agree with you though. I mean, I guess my last thing on the realignment piece is like from USC. What USC fans are going to travel from California to Maryland to play? Like they're not. I would rather see it get back to regionality and blow up the conferences and, take Minnesota, Iowa, put Iowa State, Kansas, put them all together in one conference if we're going to do that to make it regionality so that fans can travel to those games. Because you look at football, there's only 12 games that are played for sure, but then basketball has way more games. Baseball has way more games. You've got other sports that are feeling the ramifications of the
I don't know, tennis going with the Rutgers team flying out to UCLA on a Thursday night seems like A+ travel.
Absolutely. Did you hear like a couple of the scenarios that they're like throwing out there? Like we're going to have like multiple teams play like home games or against each other. Like in like we're going to go to Dallas and have like
I did
USC,
see that.
UCLA, like have like 6 teams go there and they're all going to like play game. Like what fun is that to take out any component of like home field advantage, like playing in front of friends and family on your, like, it's just ridiculous.
It's all about the bottom dollar. Have you ever been to a game at Jack Trice Stadium aside from like the college game? Have like been in?
Other than the we were there obviously for the 2 Cyhawk games, and those are the only
one that got
2.
delayed 7 hours.
Yes, I actually left that day because Kirk and Chris called a game somewhere else. So fortunately, I didn't have to be there for the entire 7-hour delay and the punt muff and awfulness that happened at the end of that game. But the other game, the third quarter debacle there that Kirk and Chris did call that one, so I was there for that.
We gotta get you back for a game though, and
love to. I was trying to get the show there this week.
Yeah, what the hell, man?
When I reached out to you,
it's Michigan, and the Michigan's the story. It makes the most sense. I get it. But
come on, man. I know, and it's a noon game. But I was like, I'm like, it'd be a great atmosphere. It's going to be a great scene. It's going to be a hell of a lot better scene than Maryland's going to be. And then, we're taking, all right, whatever. I'm the new guy on the block. I don't know anything. I am here to not rock the boat.
Well, if you ever want to get to a game, just, shoot us a text and we'll hook you up with some tickets.
Take a Saturday off.
That's right.
Maybe we can do a little KU Iowa State game at Hilton.
Oh, because with the Big 12 expanding, we only get one of those this year, and it is at Hilton this year because it's not a home Schedule where Iowa State doesn't get to go to Fog Allen,
which is a shame too.
Which is a shame. Again, another shame. But anyway, Iowa State basketball, they're fun this year. I don't know if you've gotten to watch. I mean, because it's during football season. Mm-hmm. This Iowa State basketball team, like the ceiling is really high for this team. Yes. So
I was being a Miami guy, I was very concerned 2 years ago. Like I thought we were the way Iowa State had won those first couple of games in the tournament, and Miami playing Miami in the Sweet 16, I was like super concerned. I'm like Iowa State is due to play a good game, and it shocked me how Miami did come out and win that game, kind of going away, and then ultimately they wound up losing to KU in the Elite Eight. And then last year I got to see something that I never thought I would see in my life, is Miami basketball in the Final Four, which was amazing to see. Wish they could have had a little better performance against UConn, but
Larry is good. But yeah, this Iowa State team is it's like the rock fight that you got to, that you were kind of expecting a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But now offensively, like as an offensive talent wise, they have Omaha Bilou is a 5-star McDonald's All-American. It's playing only about 10 minutes a game because the rest of the scorers on the roster. So I think they're averaging like 90 something points a game, and they're holding opponents to in the 50s. Now, granted, you're playing like Sister Mary's School to Poor, so it's not really something you can really count on. But this Iowa State team is a very dark horsey team to watch out for. So
I like it. Do they have any good non-conference games coming up early on?
They got the tournament down in Orlando, and it's FAU is going to be at the tournament in Alabama. I think is going to be, and Virginia Tech are going to be there in that tournament, and I think it's Thanksgiving weekend. So they'll have some opportunities to actually.
Next weekend.
It's Thanksgiving weekend, right?
Yeah, next weekend. So next weekend.
I'm calling it now, Bear. Iowa State's going to win that tournament.
Well, I'll have to look for a little price on the little in-season game. Wow, so I got something else to look forward to now next weekend. We're gonna have Ohio State, Michigan. We got this, and we have Liverpool, Ben City. On Saturday morning as well.
You big football guy? Kicker. So got to.
Yeah.
Soccer's
my first.
Not EPL guy. That's all right. It's not for everybody. I understand.
When it's on, I don't make it. I don't look at the schedule and say I got to watch this. But when I'm flipping through the channels and see it on, yeah, I'll watch it.
Yeah, it's funny. I've always actually played soccer before I did football, because we didn't have a football team like in junior high or whatever. So I was playing soccer up until high school as well as Pop Warner. But then working with some people on projects at ESPN, going to the World Cup, and watching Michael Owen in like 94, 95, and kind of then working with Steve McManaman, Liverpool guy at the World Cup, just kind of was awesome. Finally got to get to Anfield a couple of years ago. They are sick, hardcore fans over there of their clubs. That's for sure. I think that's kind of why I like it, because it kind of reminds me of everything that makes college football great. Just like the fans and the ties to the community, and how lineage of fans, the generations of fans rooting for the same team. So it's really cool.
Well, now they're starting to bring the MLS is starting to bring some of those guys over here. So I want to get down to Kansas City. The ticket prices are unreal, but I want to get on Kansas City when Miami plays there. I think next year, the year after, to see Messi. I mean, I feel like that's a once in a lifetime.
Not only Messi, Luis Suarez, who is a great player for Liverpool. He's going to be playing there next year as well. So they're going to be a massive draw next year, which is great. A lot of people kind of scoff and be like, "Oh yeah, they're just washed up from their European." But you know what? The American fans know their names and love watching them. And I mean, I wouldn't say Messi winning the Ballon d'Or again past year, winning the World Cup in 22. I wouldn't say he's washed up. That's for sure.
Well, wasn't Miami their soccer team kind of sucked until Messi got there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They ultimately didn't make the playoff, but yeah, he totally turned them. I mean, I think they either had one win or hadn't won a game or whatever it was, and then when he got there, they went on quite a run. Just came up just short.
Yeah, that World Cup final with France and Mbappe and Messi going back and forth. So we were out. My wife's parents wanted to go out to New York for Christmas, just experience New York for Christmas. Which parts of it fun, parts of it not. Don't go to Rockefeller Center during Christmas. Absolutely horrible. Anyway,
can't move.
But it was funny, like the World Cup final, when you're like, I'm watching on my phone because we're just walking around kind of New York, and they're not big sports fans. I am, and so I'm watching on my phone, and it gets to the point, and we're doing Christmas shopping. And it gets to the point where it's the middle of the second half, and that game's getting like really close, and it's going. I mean, it's getting ready to go into overtime. And you sit down at like a whatever, I don't know, Saks Fifth Avenue, and you're sitting down there or Macy's, and there's like 5 other people, like regardless of age, sex, sports preference, whatever. There's like a 75-year-old woman that's got her phone watching the World Cup match. There's like other people. So like by the time I got to overtime during kicks, my YouTube TV stream was like 15 seconds behind other people's for some reason. And so I'm walking I think we're just walking to go grab some pizza kind of on the Upper West Side. And I think Mbappe, or was it Messi, makes his PK, and like 12 people in front of me and 12 people behind me all go like, yeah, like everybody was watching it, just walking up and down the sidewalks in New York. And I think that to me is the coolest part of soccer, is that like it is worldwide and it's so much easier to understand than football for the casual fan. So like no matter how big the Super Bowl is going to be, like you have to explain like, okay, well, this is pass interference. And you're like, wait, what? It's like, no, that guy kicks the ball into that net. Got it? Good. So
Try
like, that's the
explaining
thing I like
offsides
about
though.
Yeah.
Okay, it's when the kick, when the actual pass happens, it's where the
But midfield plays a big part in that too.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've held you for almost 30 minutes, and I do. So my wife and I do travel a bunch. Now that I kind of travel a bunch. At what point is the flight long enough to take your shoes off on the plane?
Never.
Really?
well, I will amend that. Red eye flights, especially if you're in first class and you can able to lay down, you take your shoes off. They give you the sleep socks that you can put on. You're good. Red eyes where you're sleeping, you need to be a little comfortable. You're good.
Okay, I can get behind that.
You look so offended when you ask that.
I'm not one of those like take them off, let the dogs bark, put it up on the wall. That's not.
Put it between the seat of the person in front of you. Just have a foot dangling down here.
That's not me. Like
on their armrest.
If you're going to be asleep for a majority of the flight and you had a long day, fine. Take your shoes off, keep your feet under the seat, and you're good. Or if you're fortunate enough to be on like an overnight transatlantic or transpacific flight, and you're good.
Okay.
But
okay. Yeah, we went this summer. We went Zurich or O'Hare to Zurich, and like took off at 8 p.m. landed like 10 a.m. That one, I mean, I'm a broad-shouldered guy. It's a little hard to get a little bit comfortable.
Yep.
Then we had another one earlier in the year where we went to London. That flight was during like the entire time during the day, and I can get behind the keeping your shoes on part. I don't necessarily always follow that rule, but especially because I got to like fold myself up in the seats, and it's a little bit easier to do. It's just like a little bit less space. But I had to get a take. I'm just making sure we understand the flight.
How was Zurich, by the way?
Unbelievable. Switzerland, it's like, so just Zurich itself is it's the nicest, cleanest European city that I've ever been to. But the thing about Switzerland itself, like as a legitimate story, we were in Zermatt, which is where the Matterhorn is, and took a little hike on kind of, I don't know, east of where the Matterhorn is. And it's whatever. Everything's a beautiful trail. You come back out and there's a little restaurant there, and this restaurant retrofitted old ski chalets into a bathroom. And the windows of the bathrooms literally overlooked the mountains in the Swiss Alps. And the shitters there have the best views that I've ever seen. That's Switzerland. It is expensive, but wow, it is worth it. So Zurich,
that's what I've heard. In 2020, we had planned our trip, and we were going to go to northern Italy, Milan, and across Como, and wind up in Venice. And we were flying into Zurich because we always kind of look for like these oddball routes to try and figure out like what's the least amount of miles I need to use to pay for this trip. So we were going to fly into Zurich, spend a day there, and then take the train down through the Alps to go to Milan. And then obviously the world decided I wasn't going to do that. So
if you do get to go to Switzerland, my favorite place there was in the Interlaken region, which is kind of down by Bern-ish. And there's a place that's sort of like off the beaten path. It's called Kleine Scheidegg, and it's up at the base of the Eiger Mountain. And I mean, it is a fairy tale looking place. And there's so few people there. Like every hike is gorgeous. Like, little puffer trains everywhere you go. So like Kleine Scheidegg in the Interlaken region, it's A+.
Maybe I might have to try and do that on the back end, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to be in Germany for Euros in like June of 2024. So maybe on the back end of that, I'll have to go down to Germany over to Switzerland. Maybe spend some time in some places that I haven't been over there yet.
Sweet. Well, Chris, we've kept you past the time. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate you jumping on with us. And yeah, man.
Thanks for coming on.
This has been fun. Thank you so much.
If you didn't already, by talking about the Larry Eustace late 90s basketball teams, if you didn't already have the place in Cyclone, like the Cyclone land as like the favorite national guy, you absolutely cemented it with the Eustace stuff. I
would have won a very big bracket pool had they solely won the game against Michigan State. So I was like the only one that had Iowa State winning that. Like it wouldn't have even mattered what happened in Indianapolis. Like I would have won. It it was crushing because that aside, money aside, I was so mad. because I loved watching that team, and they deserved a much better shake than what they got.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I'll leave you on that note.
Yeah. No, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. And yeah, I'm serious. So if you want to get to Jack Trice, let me know. We'll get you some tickets, man. If you
Absolutely.
ever have a free Saturday.
Well, have fun this weekend. Great talking to you.
I appreciate it.
Shoot me if you ever want to chat again. Let's do it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Well, that was the Goldfinch Athletics interview with a legend, absolute legend there, Chris Fallica. I mean, I think that was the most fun I've had like in an interview. I mean, Hatch was good for BYU, but like he's not the bear. I mean, no offense to Jake Hatch, but
that was solid, man. Yeah, he's a good dude, just a fountain of knowledge and just down to earth dude.
Well, and what's funny is that like he's so, he says he's sort of like good at some things, that knows something a little about a lot of things.
He knows a lot about a lot of things.
We stopped recording, and he was talking about in like going back in 1996 was the first year of the new overtime rules, and his first game was Wyoming at Iowa State that he was a part of with one of the broadcasts, and was recalling the exact specifics and mechanics on McCarney winning the toss and what elections he made on that. I was like, dude, that's not just a little bit about a lot. Yes. That's a lot about a lot.
He's cutting himself short.
So that was really fun. So yeah, he also after we hung up, he was like, yeah, if you want me to do this again, I'd be happy to. So,
and I don't think that was just a nicety. I think he legit meant that.
Yeah, I 100% plan on doing that. So I don't know, Aiden, don't screw it up, man. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning into this one. This is kind of a special edition. We will come back with our regular scheduled Kicking It later in the week. And so, we got the bear on. Got to put the bear episode out. So.
Yeah, this one was just a nice interview. We'll be talking more about BYU and upcoming Texas. But for now, that's all we got for the bear. And as always, adopt, don't shop.